Introduction to Economics. So firstly, we will understand the meaning of economics. Economics is the study of rational behavior of a person to use various limited resources in order to satisfy the different needs and wants through taking assistance of various tools like tables and charts, either at individual or national level. Rational behavior here means that a logical behavior where he has the ability to think after taking into considerations various aspects and with the knowledge of everything going around in the market. Economics is the social science that examines how people choose to use limited or scarce resources in attempting to satisfy their unlimited wants. Economics is the study of the economy. It is the study of how human beings in a society go about achieving their wants and desires. It is also defined as the study of allocation of scarce resources to satisfy individual wants or desires. An individual, let's say, wants to purchase a laptop of particular specifications within 1 month and he has resources of rupees 50,000. Then in this case, he will have to take a decision to use resources at his best. And he does that by making a rational decision through comparisons and adjustments. This is economics. We need to understand economics in order to take decisions for the following. Resource allocation, how to efficiently use the resources. Inventory and queuing problem, how to store and use inventory. Pricing problems, what and how much to set price. Investment problems, how much and where to invest. It essentially involves the analysis of certain major subjects like demand analysis and methods of forecasting, cost analysis, pricing theory and policies, profit analysis with special reference to break-even point, capital budgeting for investment decisions, the business firm and objectives, competition. After studying this lesson, we should be able to define economics, analyze the economic principles, differentiate between micro and macroeconomics, analyze the economic problems and the central problems of an economy, understand the basic economic concepts. Now let's look into principles of economics. Division of labor, the separation of a work process into a number of tasks, with each task performed by a separate person or group of persons. It is most often applied to systems of mass production and is one of the basic organizing principles of the assembly line. Breaking down work into simple repetitive tasks eliminates unnecessary motion and limits the handling of different tools and parts. The consequent reduction in production time and the ability to replace craftsmen with lower paid unskilled workers result in lower production cost and a less expensive final product. Opportunity cost. The simplest way to estimate the opportunity cost of any single economic decision is to consider what is the next best alternative choice that could be made. The opportunity cost of the city's decision to build a hospital on its vacant land is the loss of the land for a sporting center or the money that could have been made from selling the land. Equimarginal principle. The most important key principles of economics in themselves are the fundamental principle of microeconomics, the externality principle, marginal analysis. Market equilibrium, situation where the supply of an item is exactly equal to its demand. Since neither there is surplus nor shortage in the market, there is no innate tendency for the price of the item to change. However, there are many applications and at least 4 important subsidiary principles. Elasticity and revenue, the entry principle, cobweb adjustment, competition versus monopoly. Diminishing return, also called diminishing marginal return, refers to how the marginal production of a factor of production starts to progressively decrease as the factor is increased, in contrast to the increase that would otherwise be normally expected. According to this relationship in a production system with fixed and variable inputs, say factory size and labor, each additional unit of the variable input, that is man-hours, yields smaller and smaller increases in outputs, also reducing each worker's mean productivity. Game equilibrium. Game theory allows strategy to be a part of the story. One result is that we have to follow for several kinds of equilibriums. Non-cooperative equilibrium, prisoner's dilemma, dominant strategy equilibrium, Nash best response equilibrium, but not all Nash equilibriums are dominant strategy equilibrium. Cooperative equilibrium, oligopoly. Measurement principles. Economics is multidimensional, and that creates some difficulties in measuring things like production, incomes, and price levels. Medium of exchange. A medium of exchange is an intermediary used in trade to avoid the inconvenience of a pure barter system. Money is whatever is generally acceptable as a medium of exchange. This is what we call fiduciary relationship. Income-expenditure equilibrium. It is associated with its Keynesian theory of aggregate demand. This model pulls together a number of subsidiary principles that complement one another. We can understand microeconomics under two heads: microeconomics, macroeconomics. We can clear the difference between them as follows. Microeconomics. The word micro means a millionth part. Microeconomics is the study of the small part or component of the whole economy that we are analyzing. For example, we may be studying an individual firm or in any particular industry. In microeconomics, we study the price of the particular product or particular factor of the production. Macroeconomics is the study of behavior of the economy as a whole. It examines the overall level of nations' output, employment, price, and foreign trade. Macroeconomics is concerned with aggregate and average of entire economy. For example, in macroeconomics, we study about forest, not about the tree. The microeconomics theory studies the behavior of individual decision-making units such as consumers, recourse owners, and business firms. As for the practical importance, microeconomics is the formulation of economic policies to calculate to promote efficiency in production and welfare of the masses. The role of microeconomics is both positive and normative. It is not only tells how economy operates, but also how it should operate to improve general welfare. While in macroeconomics, study how these aggregates and averages of economy as whole are determined and what causes fluctuation in them. For making of useful economic policies for the nation, macroeconomics is necessary. While these two studies of economics appear to be different, they are actually interdependent and complement one another, since there are many overlapping issues between the two fields. For example, increased inflation, macro effect, would cause the price of raw materials to increase for companies and in turn affect the end product's price charged to the public. It has both theoretical and practical importance. For the theoretical point of view, it explains the functioning of a free enterprise economy. It tells us how millions of consumers and producers in an economy take decisions about the allocation of productive resources and millions of goods and services. As for the practical importance, microeconomics in the formulation of economic policies calculate to promote efficiency in production and welfare of the masses. The role of microeconomics is both positive and normative. It not only tells how economy operates, but also how it should operate to improve general welfare. Now let's discuss different categories for decision making. Decision making can be regarded as the mental processes, cognitive process, resulting in the selection of a course of action among several alternatives. Every decision-making process produces a final choice. The output can be an action or an opinion of choice. It includes three concepts: scientific versus intuitive decisions. It involves the choice of decision-making on the basis of either scientific logic, involving analysis of problems through data, concepts, precepts, and techniques, or intuition, involving value judgments based on beliefs and experiences. Scientific decisions are usually taken by the people with professional degrees like MBA, while on the other hand, intuitive decisions are taken generally by old business houses on the basis of their experience and trial. General versus functional decisions. General management decisions mostly pertain to corporate plans and business policy areas. By contrast, the functional management decisions relate to a specific functional area or sub-area, such as tax planning, inventory valuation, production scheduling, staff recruitment and selection, sales promotion, etc. All general decisions have functional area implications. For example, a decision towards corporate restructuring may carry certain implications. General decisions are to be taken in view of an integrated approach. Certain versus risky versus uncertain decisions. This contrast has to do more with the nature of decision environment than with the decision process. Certain decision involves negligible chances of modification. Risky decisions involve chance of loss of income, and uncertain decisions are those which are taken mostly in uncertain situation and have chance of modification. It is now easy to comprehend that the decision takers would like to operate under certainty because they are risk avoiders. The decision makers, on the other hand, are risk takers. Some of them may even be risk lovers. By nature, a decision maker, even if placed in the world of certainty, where risk does not exist, imagines risk. In the same way, if he is placed under uncertainty, a decision maker tries to guess the element of risk when he cannot estimate it. That is, he may even guesstimate risk. The types of decisions or approaches to decisions indicate the attitude and action of a decision maker or decision taker. To fully understand what is economics, we need to discuss its problems, which are scarcity and choice. Scarcity. You might have a favorite hobby like collecting toys or reading Harry Potter books. You might have a favorite food like ice cream or a special kind of bread. What would you do if your favorite toys or books were no longer available? What if you couldn't get ice cream or your favorite bread anywhere? People deal with this kind of problem every day. It's called scarcity. It comes from the word scarce, which means there isn't a lot of it or it isn't always available. If enough people want strawberries when none are available, then the demand is quite high. And the demand is high not because the price is low, as is usually the case, but because the supply is low. So how does scarcity relate to supply and demand? Scarcity is a measure of supply. If strawberries are scarce, then the supply of strawberries is low. And if many people want to buy strawberries, and when none are available, then demand is high because of a low supply caused by scarcity. Choice. When things are scarce, we have to make choices. If the market doesn't have strawberries, you have to decide if you really want strawberries. If you do, then you will have to travel to different markets to try to find some strawberries. If you don't find any strawberries anywhere, then you will have to go without it. Scarcity has forced you to go without strawberries. Another choice you might have to make when something is scarce is how much you're willing to pay for it. If strawberries are normally a low-price product, then they might have a higher price when they are scarce. If that is the case, then you will have to decide whether you want to pay the higher price. You will have to decide how badly you want those strawberries. If you have only a certain amount of money, then you will have to buy the strawberries using some of the money you had planned to spend on other foods. Scarcity has forced you to make a choice between foods. Scarcity can be a powerful thing. It can force you to make difficult choices. It can force you to go without. It can force you to pay more than you wanted to. It can also force you to look elsewhere for the thing you want. Utility, an economic term referring to the total satisfaction received from consuming a good or service, is called utility. Utilities differ from applications mostly in terms of size, complexity, and function. A consumer's utility is hard to measure. However, we can determine it indirectly with consumer behavior theories, which assume that consumers will strive to maximize their utility. Utility is a concept that was introduced by Daniel Bernoulli. He believed that for the usual person, utility increased with wealth, but at a decreasing rate. Since consumer demand for utilities does not change dramatically with a change in price, these companies are regulated by the state or provincial and federal governments. Utility can be applied by economists in such constructs as the indifference curve, which plots the combination of commodities that an individual or a society would accept to maintain a given level of satisfaction. Individual utility and social utility can be constituted as the dependent variable of a utility function, such as an indifference curve map, and a social welfare function, respectively. Central problems of an economy. The three central problems of an economy are what to produce and how much to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, opportunity cost and production possibility curve, frontier. Opportunity cost is the value of what is foregone in order to have something else. This value is unique for each individual. You may, for instance, forego ice cream in order to have an extra helping of mashed potatoes. For you, the mashed potatoes have a greater value than dessert. But you can always change your mind in the future because there may be some instances when the mashed potatoes are just not as attractive as the ice cream. The opportunity cost of an individual's decisions, therefore, is determined by his or her needs, wants, time, and resources or income. The production possibility frontier, PPF, represents the point at which an economy is most efficiently producing its goods and services, and therefore allocating its resources is the best way possible. If the economy is not producing the quantities indicated by the PPF, resources are being managed inefficiently and the production of society will dwindle. The production possibility frontier shows there are limits to production, so an economy to achieve efficiency must decide what combination of goods and services can be produced. Let's look at the chart on the slide. Imagine an economy that can produce only wine and cotton. According to the PPF, points A, B, and C, all appearing on the curve, represents the most efficient use of resources by the economy. Point X represents an inefficient use of resources, while point Y represents the goals that the economy cannot attain with its present levels of resources. This is important to the PPF because a country will decide how to best allocate its resources according to its opportunity cost. Therefore, the previous wine or cotton example shows that if the country chooses to produce more wine than cotton, the opportunity cost is equivalent to the cost of giving up the required cotton production. As we can see in the figure, in order for this economy to produce more wine, it must give up some of the resources it uses to produce cotton. Point A. If the economy starts producing more cotton, represented by points B and C, it would have to divert resources for making wine, and consequently it will produce less wine than it is producing at point A. As the chart shows, by moving production from point A to B, the economy must decrease wine production by a small amount in comparison to the increase in cotton output. However, if the economy moves from point B to C, wine output will be significantly reduced, while the increase in cotton will be quite small. Keep in mind that A, B, and C all represent the most efficient allocation of resources for the economy. The nation must decide how to achieve the PPF and which combinations to use. If more wine is in demand, the cost of increasing its output is proportional to the cost of decreasing cotton production. Point X means that the country's resources are not being used efficiently, or more specifically that the country is not producing enough cotton or wine, given the potential of its resources. Point Y, as we mentioned above, represents an output level that is currently unreachable by this economy. However, if there was a change in technology while the level of land, labor, and capital remained the same, the time required to pick cotton and grapes would be reduced. Output would increase and the PPF would be pushed outwards. A new curve on which Y would appear would represent the new efficient allocation of resources. When the PPF shifts outwards, we know there is growth in an economy. Alternatively, when the PPF shifts inwards, it indicates that the economy is shrinking as a result of a decline in its most efficient allocation of resources and optimal production capability. A shrinking economy could be a result of a decrease in supplies or a deficiency in technology. An economy can be producing on the PPF curve only in theory. In reality, economies constantly struggle to reach an optimal production capacity, and because scarcity forces an economy to forego one choice for another, the slope of the PPF will always be negative. If production of product A increases, then production of product B will have to decrease accordingly. Incremental principle. Incremental cost. Incremental cost is defined as the change in total cost as a result of change in the levels of output, investment, etc. Incremental revenue. Incremental revenue is defined as the change in total revenue resulting from a change in the level of output, prices, etc. A manager always determines the worth of a decision on the basis of the criteria that IR is greater than IC. A decision is profitable if it increases revenue more than it increases cost. It reduces some cost more than it increases others. It increases some resources more than it decreases others. It decreases costs more than it decreases revenues. Discounting principle. To deduct or subtract from a cost or price. To purchase or sell a bill, note, or other commercial paper at a reduction equal to the amount of interest that will accumulate before it matures. To lend money on a commercial paper not immediately payable after deducting the interest. To sell or offer for sale at a reduced price. To reduce in quantity or value. To leave out of account as being untrustworthy or exaggerated. Disregard, discount a rumor. To underestimate the significance or effectiveness of, minimize. Took care not to discount his wife's accomplishments. As there is risk and uncertainty about the future, the return in future is less attractive than the same return today. The future therefore has to be discounted for the risk and time. Markets. Market may be defined as a place where buyers and sellers interact. Thus, it can be said that the main function of the market is to bring the buyers and sellers into contact with each other. Economic goods. Economic goods have following characteristics: utility, scarcity, transferability. Free goods are the item of consumption, such as air that is useful to people, is naturally in abundant supply and needs no conscious effort to obtain it. Free goods are those which are obtained without cost. In contrast, an economic good is scarce in relation to its demand and human effort is required to obtain it. Various types of economic goods are: industrial goods, for use by industry in production of commercial goods, consumer goods, or other industrial goods. Commercial goods, used in business in the form in which they are produced. Consumer goods, they can either be convenience goods, shopping goods, or specialty goods. Wealth and income. Wealth really doesn't have much to do with income. Wealth is an abundance of valuable material possessions or resources. The concept of wealth is of great importance in economics, especially development economics. Yet the definition of wealth is not straightforward and there is no universally agreed upon definition. Income is the money that people receive from work, government benefits, or investments. Wealth or net worth refers to savings, real estate, retirement funds, stocks, bonds, and trust funds. The possession of large amounts of wealth, not merely income, is what distinguishes rich people from the rest of the population. It is important to know that income is a flow. It measures the receipt of money per period of time. While wealth is a stock, it measures the value of a person's wealth at a given point in time. Example: a wealthy person may have a net worth in the millions or billions of dollars, while the average American is in debt or has a negative net worth. Income based on a large amount of wealth or investments is generally more stable than income based on work, since a person may lose his or her job and be suddenly without any income. Price and value. You all know that price is what you pay and value is what you get. But how do you define them? Price can be defined as a component of a transaction that takes place between a buyer in order to obtain something. Now let us check if we have understood the various concepts discussed in this lesson clearly. An individual has unlimited wants and limited resources. Right or wrong? Right. Microeconomics is concerned with a single individual. Right or wrong? Right. Intuitive design involves analysis of problems through data, concepts, precepts, and techniques. Right or wrong? Wrong. The separation of a work process into a number of tasks leads to reduction in final cost. Right or wrong? Right. Let's revise. Economics is the social science that examines how people choose to use limited or scarce resources in attempting to satisfy their unlimited wants. Economics is a science which studies human behavior as a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. There are 10 key principles of economics: opportunity cost, division of labor, equimarginal principle, market equilibrium, etc. Microeconomics is the study of decisions that people and businesses make regarding the allocation of resources and prices of goods and services. Macroeconomics is the field of economics that studies the behavior of the economy as a whole, and not just on specific companies, but entire industries and economies. Scarcity means that people want more than what is available. Scarcity limits us both as individuals and as a society. This problem leads to the problem of choice and utility. The three major central problems of an economy are: what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce.